Hello and welcome to the weight loss webinar. This is Jedha here from goodfoodeating.com. Just wanted to say welcome. I saw quite a few people in the waiting room. So I know some people like to just stay quiet and listen along, but if you feel like typing into the text chat, you'll see that on your screen, and you can actually ask questions as we go along and say hello. So if someone wants to jump in and just say hello so I know that you can hear me, that would be fantastic. Hello Meg, thanks for doing that, I appreciate it. So also I just wanted to let you know that we will be recording this session. I've had a few emails from people saying they couldn't make it, so I'd like to make the information available for everybody to catch up on at a later time. So it's pretty easy to use this platform. As you've just discovered, Meg, you can type in that text chat as we go, or you can simply just sit and listen along if you prefer. So what we're going to cover together today is I'm just going to talk about briefly who I am. Hello, Lauren. Lauren, one or the other, sorry if I got your name wrong, but nice to meet you and thanks for coming along and shouting out. I know a lot of people can be shy when they come to webinars, so that's fine, they can just sit and listen. But what we're going to cover today is a little bit about who I am. I don't like to talk about myself much, but in case you don't know me, it's nice to get a little bit of background information. And we're going to talk about some simple weight loss principles, go over some really basic nutrition fundamentals, but they're things that we should know, and we likely do know, but they're good things as a reminder to formulate our basic eating plan on and that type of thing. We'll talk about why counting calories doesn't matter and some of the common reasons that prevent most people's weight loss, and a few tips on how to break free of the dieting cycle. And I did want to let you know about the Best You boot camp that I run. It's an online 6-week boot camp program, and we're kicking off another round on October 1st. So I'll give you some information about that as well. So as I said, my name is Jedha. I do live in Australia, but I do work with clients all over the world and have had people in my boot camp from all over the world. I'm also a mum. I'm the founder of Good Food Eating. That's my website and my home base online. And I founded the 6-week Best You boot camp, and this is going to be the 3rd round that we're running now. So I've put 2 groups through already and they've had fantastic results because it is a bit of a different type of weight loss and boot camp program, as you'll learn later. It's really not like traditional kind of books or e-books or things that you might pick up from reading around on the web, but it provides a really high level of interaction, much like this webinar that we're on today. So I also have a Good Food Community, which is VIP members that have finished the boot camp and they're continuing on inside the community for additional support. So I am a qualified health coach and I have worked in private practice for over 8 years, and I'm currently completing a Masters in Nutrition, which has been very interesting. I'm a certified counsellor, a fitness instructor and personal trainer. I'm also a massage therapist, pain and injury practitioner and educational trainer. And I've got years of self-study in the area of health and wellness that really doesn't come with a piece of paper. So I guess what I just wanted to ensure you that I do have some qualifications and background in health so that you know kind of the information that I'm sharing with you is not just stuff that I have gathered from around the web and that sort of thing. So health and being happy is really my passion, and I love just helping make others health and being happy that your passion too. So I hope that I can share some of that with you today. And hello, Karen. Thanks for shouting out there and letting us know you're online with us. So simple weight loss principles. I'd be really interested to hear how many diets you have tried in your life. I love to ask this question because what I've found with many women I talk to is that they have tried many different diets in their lifetime, from Weight Watchers to the soup diet to the shake diet, or really whatever other shiny name the next diet comes under. So yeah, I'd love to hear from you if you can relate to this, because I think that yo-yo dieting is very common, and for many of us it has gone back as early as 10 to 13 years of age. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Laureen, is it Laureen? Can you just tell me if I've pronounced that right? Laureen? Oh, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I addressed you properly as we go. So Laureen shared that everyone there is she's tried, and Meg said too, I've tried so many, but not just diets, cleanses, detoxes, etc. And look, you're not alone there. As I said, for many of us it goes back to childhood, if not early teenage years. So how much success have you had with these diets? I mean, over that time, you've probably experienced some successes and also failed a few times too. So Laureen shares many with success but not able to keep it off. And that's exactly the question I was just about to go into, is how long has it lasted? Because as you've shared there, and Meg's just shared that she lost 30 pounds and gained almost half back, is that stories like this are very common. People I work with and talk to tell me that it doesn't last that long. They lose the weight and gain it all back again. Often you gain more weight than from where you first started. And there's also so many research studies out there to back this up and show that most people who follow a diet program usually gain it all back. So I'm glad that you're standing there relating to this, because many women can. Trust me, I know, I work with people all the time. So clearly one of the reasons why you're here today is because you probably want to lose that weight, but most importantly, I find that generally people just want to feel better about themselves and their lives, because often when it comes often what comes along with this cycle, this dieting cycle, is all of the emotional upset that we put ourselves through. Things like self-beating and the disappointment and the frustration and the self-criticism and the constantly feeling like a total failure. And all of this stuff, because then you might go and binge eat, or you get into emotional eating cycles, and you think that what you're doing in your life is useless anyway. So if you've experienced any of those feelings as well, I can assure you again that you're definitely not alone, and this is something we often don't realise either when we're trying to overcome these things on our own and living our day-to-day life, that generally speaking, we're all in the same boat together and going through various different things. So we have to really stop going around in circles. I can tell because you all turned up here today, and for those people who did take the time to send me an email saying you couldn't turn up, thank you, and you will get the recording of this. But I can tell that you want to put a change to this and stop going around in circles, or otherwise you wouldn't have bothered taking the time to come. So we're definitely going to share a few simple principles today that you can put into action straight away, if you like. Because I can tell you there's nothing wrong with you. You're definitely not a failure. And it's just that we live in a world today where the multi-billion-dollar weight loss industry keeps selling us these bright, shiny objects, and we generally keep buying into the cycle. So in a way, they want us to feel bad, so we'll keep trying the next best thing. So we're going to talk today about putting a bit of an end to that. So I think weight loss is easy. That's pretty simple principles. And when I say that, you might be thinking, you've got to be kidding. But it really is easy. It's based on a few simple principles. Uh, what's not easy, perhaps, is our thinking and our habits around those principles. And that's really what we need to work on changing. So there's really three easy principles. We have clean diet. And when it comes to the crunch, nutrition is going to be 80 to 90% of all of your results, with exercise and activity only really contributing 10 to 20% of results. And various health problems who can't exercise and they can still lose weight. So when we can get our nutrition right for most of the part of the time, which we will be talking about today to give you that basic template, then you can get 80 to 90% of your results out of this. Given that this is not necessarily an easy thing to do because we do live in the modern world, we're bombarded with a lot of things around us today that contribute to bad health, and we get marketed to all the time with different products and so forth. But nutrition is 80 to 90% of the results. Exercise does contribute to it. We should definitely engage in some of it. And then mindset. Mindset is very important. Positive thinking and self-love and care. And I think mindset is generally an area that gets left out of the equation a lot of the time. We get told to eat a certain way and exercise, but many weight loss programs never incorporate the mindset. And that's where they really fail you, because they're not getting you to change any of the fundamental beliefs or the fundamental habits in the ways that you think about your life, in the ways that you think about food, in the ways that you approach looking after yourself, caring for things. So I just think there are very fundamental things that get left out of the picture quite a lot of the time. Wouldn't you agree? Yes, thank you. I'm glad you agree. So, some basic nutrition fundamentals, and look, you may have heard of some of the things that we're going to cover today. Generally speaking, this stuff is not really rocket science. So if we're going over this, think of it like a refresher, and if you learn some new things, then that's fantastic. But even if it's just a refresher, it's still fantastic, because that is going to reinforce some things. Just a second here, somebody said they can't hear the webinar. I think everybody else is having hearing just fine. So maybe check that your volume is up on your computer. Oh, of course, they can't hear me. I better type in. Excuse me for a second, everybody else. Okay, so I'll keep going. So you've heard the saying, you are what you eat. We've all heard this saying before, but it literally is true. We often are too focused on the pleasure and enjoyment of food and rarely stop to think about its function. And really, every single cell in our body is made from the food we eat. Our body needs the fuel to function at its best. And so when we gain weight, it really is our body's way of saying that something just isn't right, that something's going wrong there. And they're just messages that our body sends to us, because if everything's in balance, we're getting the nutrients that we need, then generally our body won't create things and everything will be fine. So we have two areas. We have macronutrients and we have micronutrients, and you've probably heard of these before too. But we have three main macronutrients. We have our proteins, our fats, and our carbohydrates. And the macronutrients contain all of our micronutrients, which are our vitamins, our minerals, and our trace nutrients, which are very, very important to our body as well, because these are our micronutrients actually fuel a lot of the body's functions on a metabolic basis. The important thing is that our body needs all of them to function properly so that we feel great and have loads of energy, and we look good too. So now in the Western diet we do have a fairly big imbalance with these going on, but when we can work out what foods to eat and we eat the foods that we need to eat, then we basically lose weight easily. And when you know what types of foods to choose, when you can choose those good sources of protein and carbohydrate and fat, when you know what they are, and you can base your main eating plan around those, then generally the rest will happen naturally. You will lose that weight easily, and the reason why is because your body is functioning like it should. And naturally, I don't think we're meant to be overweight. So, and like I said, the goal may be weight loss a lot of the time, but I think for the most part, we all just want to feel fantastic in the skin that we have. So let's look at some of the macronutrients. So the role of proteins in the body, they do a lot of work. They are basically the building blocks of our body and predominantly provide structure, function, and fuel for our cells. So proteins help to build our cells, they act as enzymes, they help regulate the body's fluid balance. Proteins are actually some of the body's important hormones, and proteins also act as transporters and antibodies, and they help sustain appetite and much more. So all of our macronutrients play really important roles in the body, which is why we need a good balance of all of them to help our body achieve what it needs to do. So some good protein sources, if you're going to structure a good healthy eating plan, some good protein sources include lean red meats such as beef or lamb. We have pork, some poultry such as chicken, duck and turkey, fish such as wild salmon, tuna, mackerel, herring, sardines, bass and cod, lots of different types of fish. Eggs are a good source of protein. Beans and legumes are a good source of protein, but they contain partial protein. They're also quite high in carbohydrates, so that's a good thing to remember when it comes to beans and legumes. Nuts and seeds are good sources of protein, and with dairy, cottage cheese and cheddar cheese are the two forms of dairy products, the highest in protein. Some of the not so good sources of protein that can tend to be included quite a bit in people's diets are processed lunch and deli meats, sausages, super fatty cuts, tinned meats, cheesy dips, and flavoured yogurt. So sometimes people are eating those flavoured yogurts thinking, oh, it's a good source of protein, but really it's more predominantly a source of sugar and carbohydrates. So just keep those in mind when you're choosing your protein sources. When it comes to fats, we have been led to believe that we should stay away from fat, but actually fat plays a very important role in the body. And considering that the low-fat industry has been promoted as a predominant way of eating, it certainly hasn't helped people reduce their rate of overweight, obesity, heart disease, and that sort of thing. We're not going to go into that whole debate here, but given to say that fats do play very important roles in our body. Fat helps to insulate our organs and protect us against cold. Fat actually delivers really important vitamins to the body too, vitamins A, E, K and D, and these are our fat-soluble vitamins. And now we see that many people suffer from vitamin D deficiencies, and although this is related to our exposure to sunlight, it is also related to our lack of healthy fat intake as well. We also need fat for healthy brain function, for our sex hormones, to create bile acids, in the creation of adrenal hormones and other hormones in our body. And cholesterol itself is made from our fat, but cholesterol is not the bad guy. But we're not going to go into that either today. Just know that we need fat for many important roles in our body. So some good sources of fat include olive oil, flaxseed oil, walnut oil, macadamia nut oil, butter, coconut oil, and nuts and seeds. And not so good sources of fat, which is an interesting topic because large health claims try and promote many of these types of oils as the healthy polyunsaturated fats to choose. But a lot of the fats on this list here, canola oil, vegetable oils, soya oil, peanut oil, grapeseed oil, margarine and rice bran oil, a lot of them are chemically processed. They're highly refined and they really don't promote the body to function at its best. So we have been given mixed messages about health on a lot of different levels. So try and choose from the good fat sources and eliminate or largely reduce any of those other not so healthy fat sources from your diet. The role of carbohydrates. So carbohydrates are our body's main fuel source. Our body uses carbohydrates preferentially to provide energy. And the brain does need about 100 to 130 grams a day to function effectively. Now we can certainly live without carbohydrates. Some people have extremely low carbohydrate diets. And your body can convert fat and protein into ketones and then convert that into glucose for the brain to utilize. But it's not as efficient as using glucose and carbohydrates for energy. So the body prefers to use carbohydrates for energy. But most people eat too many carbs and also the wrong type of carbohydrates in a modern diet. And this generally causes many different problems, including weight gain being predominantly the biggest factor, because when we eat too much sugar and carbohydrate, that pushes up our blood sugar levels. And when our blood sugar levels are high, because they're meant to be kept pretty much in a very tight range for overall health and function, that triggers our insulin. And insulin is the hormone that helps regulate our blood sugar, but insulin is also our fat storage hormone, our energy storage hormone. So when our blood sugar is high and our insulin is promoted to release, there's only two things that will happen. Well, there's three things. We use immediate energy out of the carbohydrates that we eat. The second thing is insulin will push carbohydrates into storage in our liver and muscles, known as glycogen, and we use that throughout the day when our carbohydrate levels are getting low. The body will then use the glycogen stores for energy. And third, when it can't do either of those, it pushes the excess energy into fat storage. So all of our fat cells are actually made of what's known as a glycerol backbone, which is basically a glucose backbone, and then 3 fatty acids attached to that. So we can create more fat cells with the more sugar and carbohydrate we eat. And there's a lot of other things, there's a lot of other research associated with very high carbohydrate intake, and we're talking about, generally speaking, refined products, processed foods, all the white stuff, and high sugar intake, which is really destroying a lot of people's health. So good carbohydrate sources. Vegetables, 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 and vegetables. Yes, I've included that 5 times because generally speaking, I find most people do not eat enough vegetables. We really need to be getting about 5 serves a day, which is why I've mentioned it 5 times. And one serve is equivalent to about half a cup of broccoli or half a cup of cauliflower, 1 cup of spinach. You know, it's not that much really, but a lot of people I come across, sometimes they're only getting 1 serving a day, which really isn't enough. And our vegetables are our main carbohydrate source, which contain all of those wonderful vitamins and minerals and trace nutrients and micronutrients that we were talking about. They're very dense in those things, all those nutrients that our body really needs to provide that metabolic function for our body. It also helps with healthier gut bacteria, gives us that necessary dietary fibre to keep everything moving in the gut as well. So really focusing on increasing your vegetable intake is really a huge objective, and I find that it helps to reduce your sugar cravings, it helps to make you feel fuller, it helps you to do a lot of things. So hello Andrea, nice for you to chime in here. Thank you for coming. So really this is very important. If you can even just get more veggies into your diet, this is going to improve your health exponentially, because even just getting all those micronutrients, all the vitamins and minerals that you need into your body, you will find that your body will start functioning a lot better. Fruit is also a good source of carbohydrate. Of course, it's quite high in sugar too, so we don't want to overdo it on fruit. But a couple of pieces a day is good. And then for people who like to eat grain products, I know that I do have quite a lot of clients I work with who follow a paleo diet, which is perfectly fine. That's a grain-free diet. But we can certainly include some gluten-free whole grains such as brown rice, buckwheat, which is not wheat, it's actually a seed, quinoa, millet and amaranth if we like. But I think that when it comes to including grains in our diet as well, we need to think about not displacing our good carbohydrate source, our main good carbohydrate source, which is our vegetables. Never displace the vegetables for a grain. And I think in our modern world, that's generally what we do. We base our whole meal on a huge bowl of rice or a plate of rice or a bowl of pasta or a bowl of this, noodles, and then we'll have just a little bit of sauce or just a couple of veggies if you're including your veggies. And those nutrient-dense foods like our vegetables, they're getting displaced a lot of the time. So although we can include some of our whole grains, we want to include them in smaller portions, and then we can really start seeing the function of the body occurring much better, and also that weight loss is really promoted because these are quite dense carbohydrate sources too, so reducing that definitely helps with our weight loss. So some of the not so good sources of carbohydrate include sugar. That's our big number one, and I can tell you something, if you can largely eliminate sugar out of your diet, you will be winning the race big time. And some of the other ones are white rice, white pasta, white bread, candy and chocolate, and cereals. And just as we were talking before about our high blood sugar and how insulin works in the body and basically causes our fat gain and our fat storage, these are the sources of carbohydrate that cause a massive spike in insulin. Generally, they're simple sugars, and what that means is that it raises your blood sugar much higher and much faster than it should, and so insulin acts very fast, pushes all that excess energy either into the muscles, but remember, anything that can't get stored in the muscles or get used immediately will go to fat. So these are definitely ones we want to eliminate or minimize in the diet for increased metabolism and increased fat loss. So overall, most people just eating way too many carbohydrates. So the balance of our nutrient factor is just a little bit out. And so when we can find that balance again, we can focus on these good sources as predominantly, this is not to say you can't have sugary things and other things sometimes, but the sometimes foods have become everyday foods predominantly in many of our lives. So these are just the things that will help to get you back on track and the things to focus on. So I hope that makes it clear as far as proteins, fats and carbohydrates go. So this is a really interesting topic, why counting calories doesn't matter. So I'd be interested to hear from you if you currently count calories or if you've used a calorie counting diet in the past, because it is a fairly common method of measurement as far as dieting goes. And, I find a lot of people use it. I'm just waiting for you guys to type because I can see you're typing there. And Meg says that she still uses calorie counting. Laureen says she does use calorie counting too, but again, not able to maintain weight loss. And Andrea says it's hard to maintain for me, but I've tried often. Well, this is a really interesting topic because it really is the wrong method of measurement. I think we've taught the wrong method of measurement. And this may sound like a really crazy and strange idea, but in my weight loss boot camp, I tell people to stop counting calories, to stop weighing food, and to stop measuring. We have to do this. It works. It really works. It's not really our fault that we get stuck in focusing on calories as our main method of measurement, because many popular diet programs tell us to count calories. And also, we have been told that it's a matter of energy in equals energy out. So we're told if we reduce our calories, we will lose weight. Can't maintain the weight loss. Heard it time and time again. This method is really not sustainable. It does not help our weight loss long term. As I can see, you guys can really relate to this. And when it comes to the crunch, there's a basic nutrition principle, and that equals that quality is so much more important than quantity. So if you look at that image you can see on your screen right now, it's just a classic example. If we have 2,000 calories of junk, this is not going to be the same as 2,000 calories of healthy, nutritious food. Both are going to yield a different outcome because they're a different principle, despite what we have been told. And even if you eat a low-calorie diet, so for example, something I commonly see is that people are reducing their calories to, say, 1,200 calories, thinking that, oh, okay, I've reduced it quite a bit, this is going to lead to successful weight loss. Well, the outcome is still going to be the same. Number one, you're not fueling your body to function at its best because you're not getting the nutrients that you need. You won't be building lean muscle mass, and lean muscle mass is very important to the body. It helps boost our metabolism. When we eat healthy food, it helps to build lean muscle mass. So does exercise. By counting calories and eating the junk food, even if you're eating 1,200 calories, you won't be feeling energetic and you'll probably still struggle to lose weight. I've seen it time and time again. People trying to stick to a 1,200 calorie diet, they're exercising their little butt off and they still can't lose the weight. And that is because of this really simple principle. The quality is really important. I know Weight Watchers, programs like that, they still get people to count points. And as long as you're staying within your points, you're generally okay. But again, they're not teaching any nutrition fundamentals. This method isn't sustainable long term because you can't continue counting points forever. And it just doesn't yield a positive outcome. I hope you can clearly see that, because the quality is really what you need to focus on. Get away from counting those calories. It's not going to help you. It's not helping you now, clearly, and start focusing on the quality. So all of those really good sources of food, of both protein, carbohydrate, and fat that we've talked about today, if you can even focus on eating those things 80% of the time, then trust me, you're going to lose weight. It, it will happen. Even if you're, like I said, 80% of the time. So that gives you a 4 meal leeway a week, for example. Because consistency also as well is the objective for long-term weight loss. So yep, chuck away the calories. Don't like those, guys. So common reasons preventing your weight loss. Eating the wrong types of foods, this is probably the most common problem. And as you can see from what we've just shared, there's many common foods that people think are healthy, but they're actually not so healthy for us. And also being told these calorie counting or these point counting methods are okay and are going to help us leads us into thinking that it will, and clearly it doesn't. So we might be following these methods of thinking, eating those wrong types of foods, making those simple mistakes around our choices, and they can really be easily fixed. A lot of people don't know what to change. We may actually know we want to change, and perhaps often we actually need to for various health reasons even, but what exactly do we change? We are, usually going on a day-to-day basis with our own habits, and we just don't know what to change. We have no idea on what to do first, where to start. It's all just too overwhelming. It seems too hard. And so in the end, we just kind of keep doing what we've always done, which of course doesn't help us in the end. A lot of the time we can take an all or nothing approach. I know that in the past I had been guilty of that myself and would throw myself headfirst into things, just trying to take on everything all at once. And generally speaking, it leads to failure because it just, again, becomes too overwhelming and hard to stick to. So taking a small steps forward, keeping consistent and approaching it in a different way is definitely going to help, rather than taking the all or nothing approach. That can really prevent weight loss and keep us in that never-ending spiral. A lot of the time you don't know how to change. I think that's a really interesting thing, because how exactly do you change? I mean, if you've struggled to do it so far and always ended up back in the same place, then maybe it's not as easy as you think, right? I mean, it's totally right, because I think change is a skill that needs to be brought into our awareness, and often this skill is never taught to us in school, it's never taught to us at home, it's never taught to us in life in general. It really is a skill, we've been led away from that mindset too. Remember how we talked earlier about many weight loss dieting programs and how things have been sold to us over all of these many years have often included the components of this is what you should eat and you should exercise, but the big missing part of that picture is that mindset. That mindset and changing that mindset and the feelings and thoughts and beliefs around it. And this is how this skill of knowing what to change comes into the picture. And lastly, you can just get stuck in that dieting cycle year after year, that never-ending dieting cycle. We have talked about that earlier when we arrived, and all of those diet programs that we've all tried for years on end since we were much younger. And so we don't need to talk about that again, only to say that you probably want to end it, and we all totally deserve to end it and feel fabulous in our lives. And it's time you started believing that, because it's the first step in moving in the right direction. Certainly not always an easy accomplishment, but it is possible for anyone. I really believe that, and very empowering to do it too. So how do we break free of that dieting cycle? Eat the right foods for your body to function right. We've talked about the basic principles today. The proteins, the carbohydrates, and the fats. Choose the healthy sources. If you can do that as a basic template for your eating plan, that is 90% of the puzzle solved right there. If you can do that, just focus on those wonderful, healthy sources of food. And they're not boring foods of yummy stuff, and you can actually eat quite a lot too when you focus on choosing those good sources and focus on the quality of what you're eating. Stop expecting so much of yourself, and this is really an important thing. We talked earlier about how all of that dieting stuff often comes attached with all of these emotions, the self-beating, the disappointment, the frustration, thinking our willpower is just hopeless, thinking that we just can't do anything right, that we just can't stick to things. Trust me, I've been there before too. I know what it's like. You can feel like the angel and the devil is sitting on each shoulder and whispering one thing in your ear, and the devil always seems to win over and getting you to act against your will. There are actually hormones that drive our behaviours as well, so it's not just your willpower. And a lot of these unhealthy foods that we do eat in a modern world can drive our behaviours too. But stop expecting so much from yourself. Any type of skill, if you take yourself back to any type of skill you've learnt in your life, it takes time, and you have to be patient with yourself. Say, for example, riding a bike or driving your car. They're just really two easy examples that you can focus on. When you first started to learn, you had to really focus in on learning the skill to do it. You had to focus on the gears or balancing the bike or doing whatever. But after a while, it just becomes second nature. You don't even have to think about it anymore. And changing your lifestyle, changing your habits is really a little bit like this as well. And so when we're learning a new skill, such as riding a bike or driving a car, we don't beat ourselves up. And so we need to stop expecting so much from ourselves and just know that we are making those choices every day to be the best person we can be and moving in the right direction. You need to really let time be your friend. Remember that multi-billion-dollar weight loss industry we mentioned earlier? Well, this really largely corrupts our mind into thinking we can get instant results, but we can all agree here that this is really not true, or otherwise we wouldn't be here right now. We'd all be looking like the supermodel in our favourite magazine. So once you know and you learn what the right foods are, then you can slowly work on changing that. Then you can be kind and caring to yourself. Then you can move forward, even if it's baby steps every day, and then we just have to give it time. What you do now actually shows up in 3 weeks' time. So a lot of the time, people are taking on these diets thinking, oh, I'll see the results in 1 week. 1 week doesn't get results and they give up. But what you do today actually doesn't show up until 3 weeks' time. This is actually science. And then what you do in that first 3 weeks turns up in a month or 6 weeks' time. And so every single thing that you do has a cumulative effect, meaning that it all adds up. But when you keep stopping and starting all the time, stopping and starting, how can any of that actually add up? You never see those cumulative results occur because you keep stopping and starting instead of going along and keep taking those steps forward. Doesn't mean perfection. Trust me, it does not mean perfection. Consistency is a lot more important than perfection. So you need to let time be your friend and get that clear path so you can keep moving forward. And I find that you need to get help to navigate the path to permanent change a lot of the time. We all do. The truth is that most of us can't do it alone. We do need help to navigate the path. We need people around us to support us, and sometimes our families, the environments that we're in, aren't supportive. We need people on a similar journey because it helps inspire us. It doesn't leave us lonely to face some of the challenges, some of the obstacles, and some of the processes that we face when we take on a new lifestyle change. And there are often many struggles and obstacles on the way that we go through. This is normal. It's a whole process, but it's a lot easier to face them when you have others that have your back. And so I'd like to talk to you about this now with my Best You boot camp. This is a boot camp I run online, and I think it's a wonderful program. And you can see that I'm a really passionate person about this stuff. I love to help people change their lives. I love to see people change their lives. I can tell you it's so inspiring for me to see that people in my boot camp have started riding their bike again for the first time in 11 years, or they've been put a notice board at work to say to their colleagues to come and join a walking group at lunchtime, and to lose the weight and to see their clothes dropping in size and all of these things. That really inspires me because I love to see people empowered, people confident and feeling fantastic about themselves. So my Best You boot camp is really not your usual boot camp. It's not, as you can see from the type of stuff that I've shared with you today, it is a bit unusual. I have a bit of unconventional methods, and it's not about kind of making you go 127 miles an hour and shouting at you, go, go, go boot camp. It's more about encouraging you to be the best you. And this is another thing that I find many diet programs and weight loss programs never take you as an individual into the picture. They're always just giving you rules and regulations that, generally speaking, most of us can't stick to. So the Best You boot camp is all about education. I really try to equip you with all of the tools and the strategies and techniques to do this long term and to keep the weight off. That is my primary objective, and people are achieving this, which is just fantastic. We do it through webinars like this every week, plus a whole bunch of other things, so it's very interactive. I'm a very interactive person because I actually really truly believe that people can change and want to help you. During the bootcamp program, it's all about learning to truly value you, putting yourself as the top priority. There's no counting calories, as I mentioned earlier. There's no weighing, there's no measuring or deprivation. There is loads of delicious food that you can eat, and I teach you and share with you how to do that. So what we talked about was that many diet programs have set rules and regulations, and often we can't fit in within that regime. So we work off a healthy template, which does kind of work around a lot of those basic nutrition principles that we've talked about today, but we expand on that quite a lot. So we have other webinars that go into nutrition in more depth, and we discuss a lot of these things in the community forum as well. So in the boot camp, there's loads of support. We have loads of interaction. We've got people from all over the world, which is just fantastic. And it's wonderful to see people make friends as well from all over the world and maintain those friendships through our community forum, which is a private forum that the public can't access. So we can talk freely with each other in there. And it's about focusing on long-term changes and breaking the dieting cycle, because when we can do this, it just makes us so much more happy. We can get on with our lives, being happy and being how we truly want to be in the world. I think that's what we really want. So the boot camp is actually a whole 6 weeks of fun, fitness, food and fabulousness, because we all deserve to be fabulous. So a whole 6 weeks. And if you've really enjoyed the webinar today, we do this every single week. We have weekly live webinars just like this one. And if you can't make it along, that's perfectly fine. I record every session and you find them within a few hours available to you in our membership site. We have a very supportive community forum where I really like to foster positive reinforcement, positive change. It's totally all about positivity. There's never anything wrong that you do, never anything bad. It's all just about you changing what you need to change and working at your own individual level. So we've had people of all ages from 30 to 60. We've had people following various dietary preferences from paleo to people who were just giving up a complete, fast food drive-through addiction. We've had people at all levels and they've all managed to overcome many of these obstacles and create change. So it really doesn't matter where you're starting from right now. The important thing is that it's all about you. I do provide 4 weeks of ready-made meal plans with a shopping guide and a preparation plan as well, which you can utilise. I find that a lot of people don't tend to utilise these to a T, but it gives you a platform and it also provides you with ideas on how to structure a good eating plan for weight loss and really long-term health. So you also get access to my huge recipe database, which has over 200 recipes there, and they're all friendly as part of the program, and there's sweets and nice things as well too. And there's access to a whole range of home exercise plans, because I don't like gyms myself, and I find that a lot of people think they have to go into gyms, but you really don't. So you can download those out of the membership site and use those at your own leisure. And there's loads of resources too. And the main component, like I said, it's really hard for us to do this stuff on our own. So just having that interactive component and that supportive environment is really important for us. And the webinars are just really integral because, like you can see, you can ask questions. So every week when we meet, we do have topic focuses, but it also gives you a chance to check in with the whole group. Have that weekly check-in, so if you're falling off the path a little bit, it brings your realignment back into focus, and you can also ask lots of questions while you're there as well. So here's some of the things that we do cover. We have webinar 1, we just have an overview and I just discuss about where to get started. In our second webinar, we go over nutrition fundamentals, and this is more in depth about what we've covered today with our basics and really how to work out your portions and loading your plate and different things like that. And then we talk about weight loss and health principles and different components of how hormones are driving your behaviours and how to reclaim our energy. Then in our fourth webinar, we really amp up some motivation and talk about mindset and maintaining this consistency long term. And then webinar 5 is all about sugar. So we really learn about different factors that have to do with our sugar and carb addictions, and we also discuss different natural sweeteners and things that we can use and desserts that we can make to be able to indulge and still be healthy. And I also teach you about how to read food labels, because I find that we all get sucked into a lot of these common marketing scams, and many people don't know how to read food labels properly. And at the end, we have a Q&A session and wrap up the boot camp. But although, like I said, although the topics are kind of set every week, you can come along to the webinar and really any questions that you have will be answered there. And also in our community forum, we discuss lots of different things as well. Laureen asks how many people will be in the group. It's a good question because it varies. This is the third time, only the third time I've run this program. And in the first group we had 27 people. We only really had about 10 people that were very active in the community forum and turned up to the weekly webinars. So it really was more like person coaching because we worked very closely together. In the last group I ran through, we only had 15 people, so people really got a chance to get very personalised help. So it's not, I doubt that it's going to be a really huge group. I don't know how many people will get on board. It depends, you know, how many people want to join up and get involved. But generally speaking, you know, it's not going to be hundreds and hundreds of people. I like to keep things personal, I like to keep things interactive, because the whole goal is to try and get personalised help and everything out of it as well. So I'd love it if you join us, and you'd be surprised. I'll just give you the link there as well, so you can go and you can just click on that and go and have a look at everything that's involved. But you'll be surprised that for the entire 6 weeks, it's only $47. I mean, nobody offers this type of help and this type of interaction, this type of program for just $47. I just think it's fantastic value. I want to keep it affordable so that it's in everybody's reach, because everybody deserves to feel great. We all deserve to learn about these principles and apply them into our lives and empower ourselves. And so keeping it affordable for everyone is really a main objective of mine as well. So all of that stuff, all of the live webinars, all of the meal plans, the recipe database, and huge 6 weeks about the boot camp as well. Yes, Andrea, I'm actually incorporating a new module in our beginning overview with the boot camp this time about doing an initial detox and kicking the sugar habit really fast. I did this with a small group of people on the 1st of September, and everyone got massive results really quick and got off the sugar. And I think if you can start the boot camp with that, you can definitely use it as a strategy. Other people may choose a different strategy, but yes, we talk about quitting the sugar habit quite a bit. If there's any more questions, please type them in there. I'd be more than happy to answer them. Oh, you're welcome. I hope you've found some great benefits out of today's webinar that you can even put into practice in your own life now if you decide not to join the boot camp. But we'll be officially kicking off the boot camp on October 1st. I only keep the doors open for a few days, so if you do want to get on board, please do so and don't hesitate. The doors are actually open right now, and I am including an extra webinar for people who want to get involved right now. So if you want to get an early start, you can. But yeah, just click on that link that you can see in the webinar window there, goodfoodeating.com/bootcamp. For those watching the webinar replay, I will include a link underneath the video. I'd really love to have you all on board to join us so we can create positive change, and really empower each other and support each other to achieve these things long term. So thanks again for joining me, and I hope those watching the replay will enjoy the recording as well. Get on board the 6-week SU boot camp, 6 weeks of fun, food and fabulousness. Go to goodfoodeating.com/bootcamp. I hope to see you guys there.